All right, we are live. I'm making sure the comments are live, and we will jump in. I just want to double check that this is showing up on LinkedIn so we can make sure all the channels are present. If you're online watching this, just check in real quick, say hello, say where you're coming from. There's a little bit of lag between the LinkedIn and my live session in StreamYard, but I want to make sure that everyone sees this message coming across. I may jump on YouTube to make sure it's showing up, but either way, I think we're about to be live here on LinkedIn. It's 4:30, so we're going to jump in. And today I wanted to talk a lot about startups. You know, you're hearing a lot about the staffing industry being down, which is a true statement. It is absolutely down. Travel nurse staffing is way down. Long-term care, post-acute is just not even existent. I'll be curious to see the actual data that comes out as far as what's the revenue happening in that space, because no one predicted it. No one said that this was going to happen, where the revenue is going to just truly just evaporate, with more care shifting to home, less occupancy and less census in the long-term care setting. And so that industry is just really trying to figure out itself for the net foreseeable future. But the question that still remains is it a good business to be in? Is healthcare staffing a good business to be in? Overall, I would say yes. And then the next question is, should you start a healthcare staffing company? And I'm a practitioner, right? So I consult, but I also dabble in all these things. And the answer is absolutely yes, because it's one of those things where, okay, if you want to go and disrupt the entire industry and you want to raise $2 million or $5 million to build an IT thing or a technology solution like I've done or tried doing, then yes, disrupt. If you want to have a beautiful $2 million staffing company that's you're a solopreneur or have a part-time assistant or something like that, I would do that tomorrow too. So I think it just depends on what your goals are, being realistic with your expectations. My brother and I had a staffing company in Delaware, and I did the math a little bit ago. I was like, okay, we were doing about 1.2 million in revenue, light industrial company, a staffing company. We were placing warehouse associates and lawn maintenance guys, and we had like 30 people working, and we had one part-time or two part-time people working, and one was a staffing person, one was a payroll person, and we're managing them, but we were doing this kind of after hours on the side or whatever the case may be. But that thing had a gross margin of 240K, and then you've after expenses, like, okay, we divvy it up, that's a good little side company. So depending on what your goals are, there is money in healthcare staffing, there's money in other industry verticals of staffing. And for that business model, we were virtual, and we weren't trying to take over the world, right? So it was a nice little kind of garden business that you could just manage with two assistants part-time. And those agreements that we had, no big staffing company was going to go knock down those doors in the middle of nowhere, Delaware. So my point is that there are niches all over various industries. You've got to find an in that says, oh, I can solve a problem for this type of customer, and that customer, the business model makes sense to where you see a path to profitability, you see a path to making a little bit of money for yourself, and then paying a team and things like that. So you're not working 1,000 hours a week. So if you can find those 3 or 4 things, put them all together. Hi, Josh. If you can put those 3 or 4 things together, then you have a great opportunity to have a beautiful business. If you're saying, hey, I don't want to get into it unless there's $100 million of revenue, I would say, okay, I still think there's $100 million of revenue. You just have to have some innovation. And to have innovation sometimes takes capital or a new idea or new creative solution that you're trying to solve for. So again, I think that the industry is ripe for opportunity. It's ripe for disruption in so many different areas. And I think that even though it's down, you just can't do the same thing that everyone else is doing and expecting a different result, right? So I've talked about this in other videos. Make sure you have a sales team, salesperson, and a sales strategy that will help you get direct relationships. And especially in healthcare, you've got to figure out what your mix is going to be on the MSP VMS model. If you need that just to get going and have some access to revenue, do it. I've done it. I didn't depend on it to get rich or whatever, or grow the business off of, but it was access to immediate revenue to where we were making money, within the first 60 days of getting people onboarded and placed. And so, but having a direct strategy is where we really saw the growth at several of my staffing companies. So having that direct strategy, not being able to smile and dial. I always keep my pennies close by, right? There's not too much dust on those. They still get used. So the point is that you've got to make sure you have a strategy to sell. You've got to have something innovative and why you're unique. Be a good relationship builder if you're local, and you can get your foot in the door. And again, if you just need to get to $1 million or $2 million in sales with a 20% gross margin and 2 part-time people from your church or high school students or interns or whatever, and you make, 300 grand a year, that's not bad. So, so I think it all depends on, what you're trying to do when you start out, what your goals are, what your expectations, and know that, hey, I don't know of an easy business. Someone said that, oh, this is an easy business. I don't know of an easy business. Every business I start or buy or do whatever, I've got to make a lot of phone calls and do a lot of work to get it all set up and humming. And then if I get lucky and find great people that are super motivated that come in and run it for me or run it with me, that's always helpful. So I think there's a couple of those things that you want to find as the elements for success long term, is to build a beautiful team that can help you get things done. All right, so direct is key right now. Yes, too many big MSPs are suspicious in the market squeeze. Absolutely. And I've said this, I posted this someplace too, where there might be a world where smaller agencies band together, and the technology exists now where we can have our own consortium. And I say we because I'm a small company, that's fine. But I do therapy. Someone else does locums. Someone else does travel, anything. Someone else does insert discipline. And now you can actually sell to a bigger system as a combined front, saying, hey, we're a group. We have a group that we can do it cheaper. We can do it with the same technology or better technology, because the technology is the easy part, guys. I promise you that now. I'm playing with all the AI out there. You can license a tool. You can license a VMS. That's getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So the technology is not the issue. The issue today is collaboration in this economy. Collaboration, saying, hey, I'm going to own my swim lane of XYZ. Maybe it's per diem. I love per diem and we love therapy. We're going to own that swim lane. Then you look at who's going to own the locum swim lane, who's going to own any nurse swim lane. There's still opportunity with nurses. You still have to have nurses, maybe not as much travel, but who's going to own that swim lane? And then all the other allied disciplines and things like that, to have this full service consortium, that could still exist. I think that can happen. And that's something that could compete with the bigger groups. They just have bigger money to buy steak dinners and baseball tickets and stuff like that. So once we solve all that stuff, then there's ways to penetrate a bigger system. Again, just being able to have the relationships and some of the old school things to make it happen. So those are some of the things that I think, as far as starting up. Yes, I would start a staffing company today, especially in healthcare. I'm pro healthcare staffing. AI is not going to replace it. If anything, AI now makes it easier to get in, and you have all these tools and have a platform and a website, and it's cheaper to start today. You could build a website with ChatGPT or Replit, which I'm really loving Replit. I got another one to look at today, Mensu, I think it's called. But anyway, you can get the AI website built. You can get a platform built. You can license a platform. You don't need a platform, maybe, depending on what your model is. And you can grow into it, and you can have spreadsheets and text messages and all this other stuff. And then people working fractional, part-time, Upwork, your person from church, a stay-at-home mom. I've done all those things. A high school student who's a homeschooler and just wants to get work experience. There's 1,000 ways to get this started for low or no cost now, and being in the game. But you have to have a model. You have to have sales. You have to have a strategy to say, do I know someone in this space? I'm an operator. I'm a technology kind of person. But I have Sarita. Sarita knows therapy. So I always have to have a person that knows that industry before I just jump into anything. I had a phlebotomy company. Someone knew that industry, but I was a little bit more hands-off than I should have been, and I wasn't selling every day. Oh, well, that's a problem. We didn't have sales. We had the experts. We had the clinicians and the phlebotomists. We had the app, but we didn't have sales. Well, you got to have all three things, right? So All those things matter in that startup ecosystem to make sure you don't burn all your cash. You don't spend too much time getting things moving. So that's how I would encourage you. There's tremendous opportunity in these industries that are highly fragmented still, very highly fragmented. You see the big ones, Aya, cross country, you see all those big ones, but then there's like 10,000 that are under $3 million. So it's fragmented. There's still a lot of money on the table and opportunity out there if you are willing to get out your pitchfork, get out your shovel, and go dig for it. So those are some of my observations from the industry. Thanks for some of the comments that are coming in. When we think about the margin compression too, so what verticals am I in? Oh gosh. Okay. So I'm a consultant. So some of these I don't have full ownership of. I'm like a partial owner or a consultant owner, but I'm personally deep in therapy. So we're big in both per diem therapy. That's the company name, literally, Per Diem Therapy Experts. And so no one's doing that. No one's doing that with any kind of scale and app technology. So that's why we started that. However, now we're seeing that therapy, the way that it gets booked and scheduled, sometimes you have to do that further in advance. And so you really want to have security that someone's going to be there. So now we've opened up to say we do more perm and local contract and travel contract and things like that. So we're actually hiring more recruiters. And I did make that job offer. We have a start happening in September in therapy. So I love therapy. Now I'm personally looking at other sectors of allied, including dental. I love dental. I did a project in dental and people pay cash. The clinicians are fantastic to work with. And, there's a need. There's a high demand. It's high volume. It's great energy. And you can do fractional shifts, part-time shifts. There's a lot with the app there. So I like that space. I'm also in locums, getting that going. I like locums math, having spent so many years at Gale, whereas post-acute and the bill rates, when I started were $22 an hour and $22 an hour. And then with doctors, the average bill rate's $400 an hour. So it's like, oh, wait, that's efficient. So if I can place doctors, it's like, oh, well, that was a lot of work for me 8 years ago at Gale. I'd have to staff 35 CNAs to make that make sense. And God bless every CNA. It's a hard job, but it can be a tough population to help. Just in general. So we were having to kind of give gas loans to get people to their shift, and then all kinds of stuff just to get people to show up. So that was a lot of work to get 35 people going. I want the challenge to just get one doctor to show up to work. So I'm in that vertical. What else am I doing? I'm looking at workforce management. I think there's a big opportunity in workforce management. We go upstream a little bit to say, okay, facility, you have your clinicians that are full-time, you have agency, you have float pools. How do we get all that data, all those people on one ecosystem so that it's easier to schedule all your shifts in one spot? And so that technology exists, and there's integrations now to where we can do all these things to say, okay, how are you scheduling your internal people? How are you scheduling your float pools? And then how can we schedule the supplemental staffing around that as one ecosystem? And now that's efficient, because you don't go to the airport and say, I want Uber, Lyft, and Turo and see who shows up first. That's inefficient. That's a waste of time. And you will get charged by those guys if you cancel the ride too late, right? So now in healthcare staffing, especially healthcare staffing, don't get me started about the importance of what we do. But in healthcare staffing, we need to get someone to show up for that shift. So we need to have all that data to where we can geofence the nurse, know who's going to show up, know that we have coverage, and the patient's going to get care. My grandfather was at a facility in Savannah, Georgia, and it was an assisted living, and it was a nice place, and paying $9 or $10 a month there, right? And my grandmother goes, Aaron, if I didn't go today, your grandfather would not have had lunch. And I was like, what? Why not? It's like, they don't have enough staff. Excuse me? So I'm calling this place up. It's like, guys, what does it take to get staff? Oh, please, we need help. We need help. Oh, okay. We had CNAs there the next day. So my point being is that, guys, we need to have all this data available to get clinicians down the front line. And what happens right now, and it's unfortunate, but if I'm the MSP, I've got to take 5%. If then I have an agency, I've got to take some percent. And then if there's another agency, then it's like, okay, well, there's no money now. Now everyone's got to take a cut off of that. I haven't solved that problem yet, but there's ways that we've got to look at to say, how do we have this ecosystem, more of a marketplace, where if I have the clinician and someone else has the facility, how do we really collaborate? And it's an MSP, sure, fine, okay, but how do we make sure that everyone makes money and the money flow is good, and we know the clinician shows up and we have a backfill plan so the patient gets care? If we miss all that and everyone making money, then this should all be nonprofit and give all the nursing homes to the Catholics. They do a pretty good job, and we all do something different. So I just want to make sure that as we all think about healthcare staffing, we don't forget about the end customer, which is the patient. And so big systems, small systems, if you're a healthcare leader in a facility and you've not solved all your staffing problems, you're missing out on revenue. You're missing out on potential chances to provide quality patient care, which also gives you a chance to have better reviews in the system and make more jobs in your area where people are happy to come and be part of it. I remember numerous times where the facilities were having a pizza party, and my staff goes there as agency staff, and they wouldn't get a slice of pizza. They would not get, and then I would laugh about it because it's like, that's poor leadership, and it's really, really horrible because that's a recruiting party. You could be recruiting my staff to be full-time for you, but you won't give them a slice of pizza. My clinicians call me and say, Aaron, take that place off my app. Take that facility off my profile. I don't want to go back. I'm like, you're right. You shouldn't go back. Unfortunately, now that place is still short staffed because they wouldn't give my CNA who stop what she's doing, drop your kids off at daycare, and to do a double shift for you, and you didn't give her a slice of pizza on pizza day. So that's what happens, and that's where some of these places are short staffed. I talked about it in my podcast today with Vanessa about leadership. Leadership is always fundamental. If we're giving fist bumps to our staff, making it a place where they want to be, having a great culture, and also making sure they have the resources they need, which includes having enough team members to do the work. If you go in one day and you're short, okay, fine, got it. We're gonna band together, get it done. 2 days, okay, I need to get a massage at some point. But 2 years, you're short staffed. Well, guess what, guys? That's where the turnover is going to happen in the healthcare industry. We're burning out our clinicians because there's not enough staff. So I'm challenging all the healthcare leaders out there. If you manage clinicians and your ratios are off, you're kicking the can down the road. And I highly suggest we all innovate together to say, how do we use the technology to get a clinician to show up, pay them a good wage, and have that be managed through technology where people can manage it for a service and make a decent amount of money and get paid on time. Imagine that. So that's the future that I envision, and that's what I would love to continue to work on in all my different projects. I can't turn it off. I like to be hands-on, to stay closer to the action. So I don't think I'll be just a consultant that doesn't have a finger in some kind of operational aspect of staffing. But my company, it's me and Vanessa primarily. We have a lot of industry experience within staffing, within other industries. The cool thing about staffing is that it gets you such a background in gross profit, margins, hiring, firing at scale, and hyper growth, and a lot of big numbers. And so that's where, what I've done at Gale and other places, love helping other companies grow, scale, and figure out what's their strategy, where do they want to be 5 years from now. And that conversation matters today, especially with AI and how it's moving. If you're not looking down the road 5 years, you will stay where you are. That's what's going to happen. And that's okay if you're okay with that, flatness. And I would take a flat $5 million company today, but you got to make sure if you have a goal and desire to be at 50 million, if you're not innovating and thinking through the space of where's the cheese going, and so who moved my cheese, and you're still in the conversation, you'll have a company 5 years from now. If you're avoiding it, head in the sand, you'll be flat, or you might not exist. And just period blank. I gave my girls bad news yesterday. So I was reading the LinkedIn, and Claire's is closing. Claire's is going bankrupt, and I have 2 daughters, 10 and 8. Right, so that's their place to go to spend their $10 of earned income for the week, commissions, Dave Ramsey style commissions. And so they're like, "Oh my gosh, Dad, can we go this weekend? We want to get the bankruptcy sale stuff." If we're not innovating, this happens on the biggest scale, right? And so don't think that you're immune because you're a small company. All of a sudden, something can change in the way that shifts are disseminated. Even the MSPs and VMSs, when those came out, that was like a game changer for the facilities to centralize billing and centralize scheduling. But then whoever had those direct agreements all of a sudden got kicked off. And so if you're not continuing to have a relationship and all those different things, you could find yourself losing clients to the next new technology that comes out. Or if not even losing the client, displaced, and your margin just got compressed 5%, still doing the same job. Well, that's what happened with the first VMSs that came out years and years ago. So I just want to give you that nugget or two. We got some great comments coming in. Cross-functional. You can feel free to elaborate more on that, Josh, if there's anything out there. Alicia, thanks for checking in. Locums is saying, yes, it's insane. Doctors make great money. Did I talk about all the verticals I'm in? So I did mention dental, locums, therapy. I have history and background in skilled nursing. We'll see what happens with that long term. And then what else? Other allied disciplines. But it's all interesting to me. It's all interesting. And that's just in healthcare. I've done other projects outside of healthcare, very interesting, light industrial, things like that. Much more long-term projects, 12-month ramping up a factory or whatever the case may be. So a lot of things are still kind of in flux with tariffs, what's happening. People are still watching where their labor spend is going to go. So that's just interesting to say, hey, you've got to keep up with, how do you have a pipeline flow for sourcing and ramping up fast? How do you have speed? How do you have clean processes? I would always encourage people to take time now to make sure, are my processes tight? Do I have good SOPs? Can I onboard new workers internally quickly? Can I onboard new workers to my company quickly? Are there any opportunities to streamline it? Do I have enough tech? Do I have the right tech? Go do surveys. Go do market research with your people and say, hey, what don't you like about us? All right, let's see. Alicia, I've heard from a lot of clinicians and facilities that a lot of clinicians are going back to working in-house with these facilities now because agency work is too inconsistent. Absolutely. And I think that's really big in long-term care, Alicia, if that's what I think you're touching on. What I'm finding, though, is that in other segments of healthcare, you still have the up and down. So long-term care, the model was already kind of shaky before the pandemic. Now with the lack of funding to Medicaid, Medicare, and the reimbursement rates, everyone on that side has drawn the line and saying, hey, we're not going to use agency anymore. We're going to really kind of force people back into the work setting. And that's is what it is. I think the on-demand model served a purpose in a season, and that pandemic was insane for everyone. And so that worked during that time, but now things have changed. So you've got to kind of say there's these little cycles. That was a little bit of a business cycle in long-term care, but the long-term care is like one segment of the whole $40 to $50 billion healthcare staffing industry. So that little part's having kind of a down right now. And now it's like, well, what's going on in locums or what's going on in allied and things like that. Okay, so cross-functional part between agencies, how we can build out a complete ecosystem for clinicians. Yeah. So it's for clinicians and for clients too. So as an example, I'm working on a couple collaborations right now where I do therapy and someone does nurse staffing, and they're saying, hey, can we go sell the same client both of our services, and both of us have a chance to help that client? I'm like, oh yeah, let's see if we can do that. And so it's one of those things where now, when how the joke goes, I want to have one neck to choke. And so it's like, hey, we're working together so you can equally choke our neck, and we're working together because we want to both do a good job for you. We're one joint venture. Oh, that I can choke that joint venture's neck. That's actually a selling tool to say, oh, we actually can handle a couple things for you. And then me, because I just can't stop it. I look at it and say, hey, do you like how you're scheduling that? I see spreadsheets everywhere. I think I saw a yellow stick-it note. Like, do you ever want to have a solution that puts all that on a platform, a technology, and you can manage all your people in one spot? Oh, let's talk about it. Oh, okay, let's talk about it. If not, no big deal. We'll still staff you with, therapists and stuff. Someone else will staff you with nurses, but you can work together. And then everyone, now you can actually, if you really go deeper on it, you can say, okay, if you want to continue to co-sell, you do that joint venture, someone's got a sales resource, someone's got the recruiters, and now you can actually really get some scale from it and say, hey, we're not going to hire anybody else, and we're going to pour it into the joint venture. And now the joint venture can go joint sell more places, or you just go cross sell each other's customers and say, well, we're already doing a good job with therapy. Let me go sell nursing to that same facility. And now we just help each other. And that's a referral fee. And you just work out the logistics of, hey, okay, I brought you that deal. I get 60%. You brought me that deal. You get 60%. And then everyone makes money. So there's a lot of opportunity that I think now, especially, I was pitching one client to say, hey, I think you should become an MSP. And I think you should go tell the hospital. And she was a nurse. And I was like, and she had a staffing company. I was like, well, tell them to not use, I won't say the name, tell them not to use the big people, the big billion-dollar companies. Let's keep the business local. Let's have a local agency as your on ground representative. And all I'm going to do is focus on staffing your hospital. And if you staff one hospital, you make a lot of money across all the departments. But then she would have just gotten 10 agencies to help do all the things. And then I think there can be healthy competition so that, the big ones don't rest on their laurels on how they make money. And then we're all scrappy because we're trying to, buy groceries and take care of our family. So we're scrappy. So I think if you had that, it keeps everything healthy in the ecosystem where there's innovation and there's people trying new things. And maybe Josh is asking, does it rhyme with something? So I'll leave it there. I'm a consultant. Everyone's money's green, so they may hire me someday. So I don't know. But anyway, the point being that we've got to all look at how can we innovate even on a small scale. Someone sent a picture of on my LinkedIn about, it was a empty milk carton, like a box milk, like coconut milk or almond milk, but then they fold it in the inside and then use it for cup holders. So that's innovation, right? They're not wasting money on buying more things. Like, hey, well, let's recycle what we already have, wash it out, and then we can reuse these things. So that's innovation, even on a small scale. So I'm just challenging and begging all the small companies that are trying to scrap for their survival and existence right now to think outside the box. If you're going to say, well, I'll just wait for the MSP to start giving me more money or giving me more orders, that's not a winning strategy. I'm sorry to tell you, I'm sorry to be the one that bears that bad news. You need a different strategy, because I've already seen a lot of my clients and people that didn't want to hire me have to lay off people. They had to lay off their team members. And so it's like, okay, now it's 2025. Pandemic's over. This is now a normal business. It was a little bit easier in the pandemic in some regards, but now it's the new normal. We've got to go sell. You got to get someone selling every single day, doing 100 calls a day to a targeted niche that will make you a profitable business, to where you can have a team and you can have some quality of life and you can get people working and have fun with this. Otherwise, call me and I'll help you sell it, or I'll buy it maybe, and you can exit. But those are the options right now. And if you just want to wait around for all the MSPs to come through with all the margin compression, I just don't see that as the winning strategy today, unfortunately, because a lot of the MSPs are owned by the big corporations. So if they have quarterly metrics to hit, then they have to take some of those orders for themselves to hit their goals. And so what happens then is the smaller agencies, it doesn't trickle down. So, I didn't know it's going to be trickle down economics, but that's how it all plays out. So a lot there on starting. I would encourage you to start. I would encourage you to have a person that you can consult with that knows a segment of healthcare that's underserved, that you can make an impact positively. And don't even start until you have a customer wanting a contract. That's my last nugget for you. Thanks for the engagement today. I appreciate it. I'm going to try and do these more. So bring questions, like it, comment, share, tell your friends. I want to add value to the ecosystem. If you're looking for jobs, I come across jobs all the time as well. So again, I want to help and provide value to people and help you grow your businesses. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Take care.